we go. Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with
Dan, your ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
And we're going to do kind of every now and then we do kind of a catch up on what's going on in the church. All the different he said, she said, and then the synods that are coming up or in act right now, I guess.
Yeah, I think the Synod's going on right now, isn't it? October 9th in fact, it opened last weekend while we were at the Red River Gorge.
Yeah, okay. And I don't know. I guess we've already done a talk about this, but they've released even stranger things since then about it, and it was... I don't know. We kind of avoided it for 2 weeks, but I guess we should talk a little bit about that. But first, I think we should talk about this document from France about the sex abuse scandal in France for the past, 70 years?
Yeah. So back to the 50s?
Yeah.
Which, I want to point out, guys, that's pre-Vatican II.
Yeah. They keep doing these, like these little time bombs, where, in the 80s, a whole bunch of stuff broke out, and we were all like, oh, that sucks. And, other podcasts have pointed out that we were all kind of like, well, those numbers are a little bit askew, and well, if you really look at it, and it's, I don't know, I think by the 90s, or at least by the 2000s, we were beyond that. We're like, yeah, we know it's bad. Yeah, we know it's bad. Yeah, we know it's bad. But they keep doing studies on what we've already admitted,
Oh,
they did that in Pennsylvania, and it was like this big thing came out where it's like, all these people were abused, and we're like, yeah, I know. We talked about that, remember?
And there's probably some you missed, too.
Yeah. So... France came out with their own report, 330,000 children. Well, they said 330,000 victims. I don't know if that's children.
It's not all children, I think.
Or French.
Because I think some of them is more like abuse of power, but not necessarily children,
Yeah.
Making use of the pastor relationship and stuff like that.
Okay, well, it's saying...
I guess that's being pastoral, huh?
The AP report is saying 330,000 children were sexually abused over the past 70 years. Now,
I wonder if that's what the actual report says.
Yeah, because I guess I should have read the report. I'm going to take it as space. I'm going to say, yeah, okay.
Okay, 300.
I'm not going to deny
1,000 children.
Yeah,
and then probably so many thousand more abuses. Not related to children on top of that, maybe. Right.
Now, okay, I do kind of question these numbers a little bit. So 330,000 children, and then they said priests and an unknown number of other people involved in the church. So church leaders. And then it says... 216,000 people by, I guess we're talking about 3,000 priests still.
Oh, okay.
But even then, that means that's like 72 people per priest.
Per priest. And that's average, because, a couple of priests maybe,
probably didn't get caught or
maybe
whatever.
10, a dozen. Some of those priests were hitting hundreds.
That's a lot. I'm not going to deny it. We keep pointing out that there's a problem, because later it talks about, first of all, 80% of them were boys. Normal sex abuse victims, 75% are girls. But 80% of these were boys.
Which means it's not normal sex abuse.
Yeah.
It's a homo problem.
It doesn't give a percentage, but it says the vast majority between 10 and 13 years old. Of course, maybe a 6-year-old gets abused. Is anybody going to know? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But
there may be plenty of abuses that were never known about.
10 and 13 years old is not pedophilia, and they're still talking about it as if it is pedophilia. 10 and 13-year-old boys is hebephilia, and it's a little bit different. It's no better, but it's it's gay. It's gay.
You're a homo at that point. That's.
I mean, I guess hebephilia doesn't describe gay abuse, but it describes that age where it's just pubescent.
It's sex specific.
And if you've got a priest abusing a girl at that age, well, it just doesn't happen a whole lot. It's boys, and it's just
once in a while it happens, but not like
This is the problem we're facing, and this is the problem we've been talking about since that big report. And Vigano wrote his letters, and but I do see some of the things in these reports, like I don't think you could only blame the church here, because this guy Olivier Savignac, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say these French names, any of them really. So I'm just going to say what it looks like.
Just read it like it's English.
Yeah, he was abused when he was, I guess, a young teenager, and the priest that abused him was found guilty and sentenced in 2018 to 3 years in prison. Is that how long you go away for sexual abuse? 3 years? That
maybe it's more than one count. Maybe it's not just his. Like it might be so many counts.
No, this is someone else's account. I don't understand how. It seems like 3 years isn't a very long time for blatant sexual abuse.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem very long.
I don't know.
Maybe
in the United States,
lost about this. Maybe I don't know.
Like some states, like felony molestation or something like that, you could get up to 20 years. Up to 20 years. And
this guy got. And then there's another example here, I guess, of Bernard Pregnat. He was a Catholic priest in France, and he was given a 5-year prison sentence for
how many counts?
After admitting to abusing more than 75 boys.
Oh, wow.
5 years for 75 kids?
Man, he should at least get a year per kid.
I think 100 years ago, you'd just be shot for that.
He would have been dragged out by the townsfolk.
And as we talked about before, this is not just a church problem. It's a cultural problem. We're making sex more and more acceptable to young people. What do you think happens when you do that? And
we're making deviant sex more and more acceptable for everybody.
Yeah, it's getting to where
there's going to be crossover.
And you've already called it. The next big phobia is going to be not homophobia, but pedophobia. I don't know what you would call that, but it's going to be the next thing that they add into the LGBT crowd. Mm-hmm. The P. So
it'll be the P for pedo. And the thing is, I almost wonder if it's like this is part of it. I wonder if that's why they keep coming out with these reports, in order to sort of dull the mind, especially the minds of Catholics and Christians who perhaps might be the most ready to protest. And this is, see your priest do it anyway. It can't be all that bad. And see how pervasive it is. It's just a natural part of, the problem is the abuse that comes from trying to hide it away and be secretive about it and all of that. I think that might be what's really going on here over the last, let's say 30 years.
Yeah. But
with these reports coming out one after another.
The thing is, every time I read this in the news, it talks about Pope Francis's, groundbreaking changes to the canon concerning this.
Oh my gosh.
And
There's nothing groundbreaking about it.
It's so, if you...
It was more of the same. All of his changes were treat the problem after the fact. Let's find out new ways to address this when it happens.
Yeah, and it's
none of them dealt with the issue.
The only thing that happens is that church officials have to report the abuse to other church officials. That's like the major part of the new rule. So if you work in a Catholic church and you find out one of the priests has been doing something, you got to tell the bishop. Well, guess what? Who do you think screwed this up to begin with? It was the bishops who screwed it. It's so stupid. So we're going to let the bishops handle it. Well, they don't even have to tell the police. They just have to tell a church official. This is just dumb. And we can expect more and more reports like this to keep coming out. It's not going to stop now. I mean, I would think at this point, I think people are just kind of are yawning at it, you know.
Yeah.
The guys who have already decided to leave the church have already done so. And the guys who are not allowing it to cause them to leave the church, well, we're still here. And that's not going to change. If it's 3 million children, it still wouldn't change. It's still our church. It's
still the church.
Hopefully, something happens to clean it up. There's nothing we can do about it, though, except just keep calling it out.
And praying.
You can always pray. Also, we've got, Vigano did some talking at, I guess this was October 12th. There were some people who were protesting the, quote, Green Pass. And I guess this is a vaccine pass. So you're allowed to be outside if you've got your green pass. But
oh gosh, there's like places like Australia and stuff, right?
Where was this? This was in Italy. Hold on.
Italy? Oh, okay. Green pass.
Italians gathered in Piazza del Popolo in Rome on Saturday, October 9th. And Vigano had this to say. What we see today is the poison fruit of decades of disillusion, of rebellion against the law of the Lord, of sins and vices that cry out for vengeance in the sight of the Lord. I mean, he's just kind of pointing out that, hey, this is where this stuff leads when you break away from God. Yeah. It's going to lead to tyranny and oppression every time. I mean, they might dress it up as freedom, but it always leads to oppression. And he also starts talking about this labyrinth that we've gotten into, over the past 2 years. He says at first, he said almost 2 years have passed since the beginning of this global nightmare. We've entered a labyrinth step by step. At first it was the mask indoors. Then came the lockdowns with the self-certifications, then the curfew. Do you remember each time faced with an abuse that might seem justified by the emergency, we accepted to have a piece of freedom stolen. Step by step, they prevented us from going to church, leaving the house, working, going to school, visiting loved ones, and even dying relatives in hospitals. Step by step.
Those are all the things we pointed out.
Yeah, and it's...
He's very succinct and correct.
Yeah. He's encouraging people to continue to rebel, protest, whatever you have to do against these vaccination laws. Because it's, again, we can't quite tell what the goal is here, but it's not good.
It's not public health either.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we know the goal is not. Because there's no public health utility to this vaccine.
Yeah. I had to go into a place today, and I've been walking in through this place for the past 2 years. I think the first time during the COVID scene, I went in there with a mask on, and then I stopped wearing it, and I haven't worn one since then. And I go in there, nobody else is wearing one. But my contact there approached me. He said, "Hey, Eric," he said, "I hate to say this, I got to give you a mask this time. All visitors have to wear a mask." I'm looking around. Nobody else is wearing a mask.
Just the visitors, huh?
So, but here's the thing. Probably 75% of the workers there are undocumented illegals. Illegal immigrants.
Okay.
Now, you're going to tell me they've all been vaccinated for all these diseases?
Yeah, they haven't.
It's ridiculous. They don't care about health. So anyway, they decided to start the Synod on Synodality, which just at its face is just retarded in any way you can think of.
I'm sure this is going to be the answer to the whole sex abuse thing because of all this talk about journeying together.
Yeah,
that's the problem. That's the problem with these priests. It's not that they abused kids. It's that they didn't journey together with them while they were abusing them. That's the real sin here, according to this pope.
You know, before they started, he came out with this talk, this news briefing. He talked about the release of the preparatory document and the handbook, which we went over when it came out, to consult all the baptized, including those no longer participating in church life. Why would we consult them on anything?
Yeah.
They're not participating in the church. What does he think we got to consult them to get them back? Or
yeah, you know, Jesus didn't.
When does this ever work?
He gave the Great Commission.
No,
he said, "Make disciples out of nations and teach them." He didn't say consult them
over. He says, without real participation by the people of God, talk about communion risks remaining a devout wish. I don't quite know what that means.
That's the thing about a lot of this stuff that the Pope says.
Without real participation by the people of God, isn't that what we do at Mass?
What does he mean? Yeah. Real participation by the people of God.
That's what communion is. Talk about communion risks remaining a devout wish. It's a wish when you won't let us go.
Yeah. When we go to Mass, that's real communion.
Yeah. But then we have to sit at home and watch it on TV, and that's a wish. Or when you say we're not allowed to go to the Latin Mass anymore. Instead, we got to go with all these... I had to go to one.
Well, you know, he's right there. Okay,
week. It was so stupid.
Without
they didn't even have kneelers.
Oh, at that church you went to? Was this the chapel? Where'd you go?
It was somewhere in Westchester. It actually...
Oh, okay.
The priest was more church? Reverent. No, he didn't want to go, but I said, well, I'm going to go there because it's at 4 instead of 7.
Oh, okay.
I will admit, the priest and the people there were more devout than you see in some churches with kneelers. But it was still, it just comes off as hokey when you've seen the Latin Mass, especially when you've attended it for so long. You go into the Novus Ordo and it's disheartening. And we've got the leader of our church. That's not even good. It's got to be hokier. It can't be just that. It's got to be even hokier. And we got to invite everybody who's not even in the church to come and take communion with us. That's what really that statement's about.
Yeah. I mean, really, the statement, and that, see, here's the thing. The statement on its face, if all the words are understood correctly, is kind of unassailable. Without real participation, going to Mass, attending to the prayers, receiving Holy Communion by the people of God, those who are baptized and in a state of grace, talk about communion risks remaining a devout wish. That's true when you understand those words in their traditional ways and their correct ways. Well, you know that this is code for something else. That's not what he's talking about. And he uses a lot of words to get around it. That's the thing. He uses these phrases and words that are kind of twisty and hard to follow and pin down without actually attaching specific meaning to everything.
Yeah. I mean, when I was he was doing that from the beginning, and people would say, "Oh, did you hear Pope Francis said this?" And I would say, "No, he didn't say that." The same way I would with Pope John Paul II, because I thought they were misquoting. And I look and see, well, he did actually say that, but I could make that say a number of different things. And so that's what all the Pope-splaining came to mean is, can we, if he's speaking for the church, can we say he didn't violate the infallible understanding we have of him? You know?
Right.
And almost any time he opens his mouth, that's what we're looking at nowadays. We believe he's infallible. Is he proving us wrong? That's what the whole thing has become with Francis. But in this case, you know, we know what he means, and he means something that's wrong. Well, he ends up this speech, and he says that the proceedings, meaning the Synod on Synodality, could be impeded by one of three things, or maybe all of three things: formalism, intellectualism, and the temptation of complacency.
Okay, I get the temptation of complacency.
Yeah, like a bunch of bishops thinking they can just abuse whoever they want and do whatever they want and never have to pay for it.
And they don't have to actually change anything in how the church is run or how priests are selected or anything like that.
Yeah, that's complacency. We know what that is.
Yeah, we've got loads of complacency.
Formalism, I don't know, but does he mean like being formal? As in informal?
To me, formalism
like
means your words have meanings.
Yeah.
To me, that's what formalism is. You know, things have specific meanings, and you attach them to them, and you use them in a specific way, and you formally define your terms.
If there's
maybe I don't know what formalism is if it's not that.
If there's no formalism, then what's the point of the church? That's what we want. I can get something without formalism by talking to you on a podcast or talking to my neighbor. Yeah. That's a lack of formalism. If I want something formal, well, that's when I go to the church. So what the hell are they doing there if there's no formalism?
He seems to mean, based on a quote a little bit later, that formalism means just setting up the appearance of something or the form of something without making it actually be that.
Okay.
But
that's not formalism, but
yeah, I don't really think that's what formalism is either.
If
could be a bad translation because he could be speaking in whatever Italian or something.
Yeah, that's right. Because he doesn't usually he doesn't give us these things in Spanish or in Latin. It's always some other language, either Spanish or Italian.
Here's the weird thing. This is how goofy this Pope is. Following on this, he said, "We need content, means, and structures that can facilitate dialogue and interaction within the people of God, especially between priests and laity. I can go to confession anytime and dialogue with my priest.
Yeah.
And I can even say, hey, Father, by the way, I've got something I'd like to, more heavy I want to talk to you about. Can I set up a time to meet?" And I bet there's not a priest in the United States who would say, "I'm way too busy for that. You can't talk to me." And they would say, "Call the office. My secretary has my calendar, but yes, I'm open to whatever you want to talk about." I think every priest in the United States, who doesn't do this is bishops when somebody conservative wants to dialogue with them.
Yeah.
Those are the people. Maybe those are the structures the Pope's talking about. He says, hey, we've got to get structures in here so that conservative people can actually dialogue with their bishops. You think that's what he means?
No, I don't think that's what he means.
No, not at all. I think he actually means let's put up structures that people have to go through. I mean, what is it? I need a structure so I can facilitate dialogue with my priest. What does that even mean? That is so stupid.
It's
exactly.
There doesn't need to be structure. You can go.
We have infrastructure. We've got roads, and I can drive on it to the parish office. But I think these things are actually this idea of content, means, and structures, to me, that's putting more stuff in the way of dialogue so that they control what dialogue is going to happen. I think that's what this is really about.
See, there's the wording they use and the feel of what they're saying, and then there's really what they're saying. There's really what's behind this all, and that's exactly what's behind this all, is to keep people from, like me and you, from dialoguing. It's so that gays can dialogue, but straights can't.
Right, for example.
That's what this is about. And intellectualism, I don't think he's in any danger of this. I don't think any of them are.
Yeah, intellectual. I wonder what he even means by intellectualism. It's like...
He said...
I'm looking for a quote regarding intellectualism that might explain what he might mean. I'm reading this
kind
Catholic
of talk
News
about
Agency
it.
article, by the way.
Yeah, that's where I went for it.
Yeah, I'm missing. I don't see anything.
The Synod could turn into a kind of a study group, losing itself in abstraction. Is that what happened in... I'll tell you what, that's what happened in Vatican II, but before Vatican
that's
II...
right, turning to the second risk.
No, that's not what happened before Vatican II. There was no... it wasn't abstract. It was very concrete.
It was real.
It defined things.
Turned it abstract, and so that it no longer had teeth. It was... I mean, that's the thing. You can read the Vatican II documents, and on a abstract level, you can... refer, abstractly, they all are, say, true to orthodoxy, with a couple reservations that I have, but it was abstract. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff in there that is like, okay, we're going to just put these abstractions in place and then let bishops, priests, whoever, draw on them as they might for decision making about how they're going to bring people to Christ, and it ended up being a disaster. And
no matter what they do, they would always say, well, this is the spirit of Vatican II. Because it's so abstract. So he says usual...
does this mean he's turning back the spirit of Vatican II, do you think?
No, I don't think that.
That doesn't sound like him.
No. He said the usual people saying the usual things without great depth or spiritual insight. This is what's dangerous. I agree with him. I just don't think we're talking about the same people. And ending up along familiar and unfruitful ideological and partisan divides. Removed from the reality of the holy people of God and the concrete life of communities around the world. What the hell has he been doing? He's been tearing these communities apart.
Yeah.
Did you read?
He's been driving designs. He's been fostering and engendering partisanship within the church. And that's, again, this is the, okay, he's like, okay, we have to resist the intellectualism. Here's what he's really saying. We have to resist the intellectualism that would cause people to think too clearly and too much about these things. We've got to put it immediately into terms of boots on the ground so that we can accomplish our goals in spite of the fact that there are a lot of intellectual errors behind them. I think that's what he's really saying here. That's what this reads like to me.
Yeah. He adds something here. The danger in the end is to apply old solutions to new problems. I'd like to know what new problems we have other than a heretic pope.
Yeah.
Other than that, what new problems do we have? I'd love to know that.
Had the fundamental problem of sin, and that is the problem that the church is there to solve. The church is not there to solve economic problems. The church is not there to solve
which we've always had
of productivity,
which we've always had.
Right. The church is not there. The church is not really even there to solve things like wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the church can help contribute to the solution by bringing holiness to people, especially people who are in charge of nations and cities and so forth. But the church is the problem that the church is here to solve is the problem of sin, and the solution to that is Christ and the Mass and the sacraments.
And it's really that simple.
It really is.
The only new problem we have right now is that, and it's even then, it's not a new problem. We've had it before. It's just not to this degree that people are unable to find the church. We've gotten to a point where we don't know where to turn. But because of mass communication, actually, we do know where to turn. We're able to find the truth still.
It's kind of a two-edged sword because of the modern reality of the internet. The real truth is easier to find than it's ever been before, but I mean, it's easier to get to than it's ever been before. You don't have to send away somewhere and or go through 3 chains of command with multiple delays each. But that very thing that makes that possible has also allowed such a fog and cloud of bad information masquerading as truth or compassion or empathy or whatever. And that is, maybe that's the real danger. That's the new danger is the fact that the modern state of communications, our sort of modern information age, creates a much more emphatic and ubiquitous fog of bad information about the truth.
And the problem is that this has crept into the church.
Right, exactly.
And it kind of threatens us in that they have these synods and they produce these documents that in the end don't actually mean anything. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of fog. Yeah.
It sure obscures the truth.
If you're a guy looking for the truth and this is what the Pope is saying, well, this has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I guess I'll pass on the Catholic thing. This is stupid.
Go somewhere other than the Catholic Church. I mean, just read that next paragraph in the CNA article. It is important that the synodal process be exactly this, a process of becoming, a process that involves the local churches in different phases and from the bottom up in an exciting and engaging effort that can forge a style of communion and participation directed to mission.
Oh my goodness.
What a lot of nothingness.
Yeah. It's worse than politicians. It's
the worst kind. I mean, I hear this language when I work for big companies and have to go to, I'm going to call them
pep rallies
and stuff like that. Yeah, it's that kind of language, except it's even worse than that.
I think last time we brought this up, we talked about Malcolm in the Middle when Hal becomes one of those speakers. I can't remember what you call them now. The motivation speakers.
Yeah.
But it's just a bunch of big words that really don't mean anything. They sound deep. If you say it real fast, your brain doesn't have enough power to process each part of that sentence so that you could end up making a meaning of it. But if you just take your time, go through it step by step, you can come up with something, and the something is nothing because it doesn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. The Pope, when he says this stuff, he probably really thinks it does. He probably really does have some kind of meaning in mind behind this. And whatever it is, it's bad.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's a bad thing for the church. It's a bad thing for souls.
Yeah. It's like every time he opens his mouth, I'm glad that it was a long time ago that I was red-pilled on him. And I'm more and more amazed at people who are still kind of...
There's 2 phrases in here that are weird to me. They're not weird, but that kind of jump out. Process that involves the local churches and from the bottom up. Now, here's both those ideas: local, starting local, bottom up, grassroots, that kind of. Every single totalitarian dictator acquired power bottom up. It's how totalitarianism works in the world.
Yeah.
The evil ancient monarchs, Nero and those, they didn't acquire power bottom up, but they weren't nearly as totalitarian as the modern totalitarian dictators are today that we see.
Right.
But here's the weird thing about that, because this is the language of a would-be tyrant, but the Pope already has complete monarchical control, of the church. He's the guy in charge. I think this is actually meant to put the church into I think this is not really even about the church when he's doing some of this kind of stuff. I think this is about making the church, because it already has local churches, it already has the ability for people to talk to their priests and usually their bishops. It already has this ability to kind of mobilize and motivate on a ground up level. I think this is about getting the church to support some kind of like worldly centralization of power.
So it's hey, bishops, support the new world government that's coming.
That's basically what it boils down to. We're journeying together. We have to make sure that we're all journeying together.
Yeah.
What's that sound like? One worldism, new world government.
That's the thing. He keeps talking about how it's going to be about other people giving their opinions, but it's always, always, always the people who aren't Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we listen to the Catholics for once?
Yeah.
Why can't we go in that direction? Because every single change that has happened has been either suppressing real Catholics or giving bigger voices to non-Catholics. It's always that. And he acts like it's from the bottom up, but it's not. If it were the bottom up, then the church would be getting more and more traditional, because that's what's happening at the bottom. I get,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I live in a fantasy world where the traditional movement I think it's bigger than it really is. I don't know. But I do know that it's growing. I know that it's bigger now than it was in the 70s or even the 80s.
If it were shrinking, the Pope would not have issued that motu proprio.
Yeah, he wouldn't need to. It'd just be a bunch of people who are, kind of huddled together in this tiny little one church, and they're not affecting anything or doing anything. But that's not, it's not bottom up. This is Pope Francis down. But the problem is this is supposed to be from God down. It is supposed to be from the top to the bottom. It's just... Yeah,
the church is...
We're not going all the way to the top.
Not totalitarian, but hierarchical, certainly.
Right. And that's why we're still here. That's why we still call him Pope. We don't have to like him, but we're still accepting his authority. And we've both agreed that if he decided we couldn't have these masses, then we couldn't until somebody changes it. This... I don't know. Did you look at so he gave this little talk, and then he releases these, it looks like something for third graders.
It's like this script is, all the script except the main body is in this, like, crayon font. And there's these, like, I don't know, the weird drawings on it and stuff that are, it's both like ugly and
they tried to, they tried to publish a paper in something that you would normally see on Microsoft PowerPoint. They tried to PowerPoint a church document.
Go to page. I think it's page. It's labeled as page 1, but it's the page right after the contents.
Yeah,
that's totally a PowerPoint diagram.
Yeah, it's bad. It's like these are supposed to be church documents, not.
This is like this is the kind of stuff that a certain place I worked, we used to joke, we were putting documents together for management. It's like, get out your crayons.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want any substance. They just wanted to see pretty pictures and stuff. Now, it's just like this weird cartoonish, it's hard to take anything in here seriously.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally done with a crayon. It's even, like, if you look at the numbers, Synod 2021 to 2023, it's done in such a way that at first glance, you think some of the letters are backwards. They're not backwards, right. But it almost, you have to look at it twice because it looks like kid-style coloring and that you expect it to be backwards. It's such a weird, I don't know. It's what we'd expect from Pope Francis. Now, here's the thing. I can't find the document. Hold on here. Where did I?
Oh, you sent me a link to it.
Yeah, I know, and then I lost it. Let me search for some of this text. Is there a normal form of this document?
I don't know.
Because that's what I originally looked for. I looked for a PDF, but the only PDF I found, and you couldn't download the PDF. You had to, well, I guess you could, but, okay, preparatory document for the 16th Ordinary General, blah, blah, blah. I did find one.
This is a scary, paragraph. I found it's paragraph number 25. It's on page 29.
Let me see if this. Okay, is this describing Ignatius of Antioch?
No.
Okay, daggone it.
It's right at the beginning of section 4, Synodality in Action.
I got it. Enlightened by the word. Okay,
right. It says, in fact, Synodality presents a peculiarity that is also an extraordinary resource. Its object, Synodality, is also its method. In other words, it constitutes a sort of construction site or pilot experience that makes it possible to immediately begin reaping the fruits of the dynamic that progressive synodal conversion introduces into the Christian community. What he's basically talking about is synodality as something that we pursue as an end. It is its own end.
I guess they think it is.
And this is more concretely shown on the next page when it says the fundamental question. It says the fundamental question that guides this consultation of the people of God, as mentioned at the beginning, is the following. A synodal church, in announcing the gospel, journeys together. How is this journeying together happening today in your particular church? What steps does the Spirit invite us to take in order to grow in our journeying together? This is a project of making the idea, the concept that we're journeying together more important than the direction of the journey.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Hey, we're headed over a cliff.
This completely throws out the end, the point, the destination, and says, who cares where we're going as long as we journey together? That's what this is all about.
But, here's the thing. He desperately tries to make it look like the kind of direction that we go in is going to be decided by us guys down here on the ground. But he kind of, and he alludes to that document, that came out under his reign that talked about the teaching of the church is sometimes decided by the faithful.
Oh,
let me see if I can
about
find this.
the sensus fidelium stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Really, virtue of the Holy Spirit received in the totality of the faithful cannot err in matters of belief. So he's quoting his own words here. And then he also says, although something to the effect that it's not like a vote.
Right.
But
you can't just pull all the faithful and get to the truth that way.
Right.
Which he was correct in saying that.
Right. But the faithful cannot err in matters of belief. What this is, a lot of this about is that they are able to control the people who are giving input on these synods. and all the stuff that's coming from the ground, the local churches, they're going to control who gets to talk in those and what they get to say.
It's kind of like,
and then they can say, well, it's the faithful who are saying this, not just us. We've been saying this whole gay thing all along, but now we're finding out even the faithful believe this.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what this is about, the whole thing.
I think it's also, think of it like as a strategy. Okay, so we're going to do this big synodality thing, and what we're basically doing is training the bishops and the priests in this scam, a sham of this sort of ground-up approach to church, which isn't consistent with the gospel anyway.
Yeah.
But this ground-up approach to church, we're going to put in structures and means that facilitate dialogue between the laity and the priest, laity and bishops, and so on and so forth. And by putting those structures in place, we're going to, from the top, control that dialogue so that the priests and bishops see uniformly among the faithful what we want them to see, what we at the top want them to see. I think that's what this really all looks like when you put it all together.
Yeah, definitely. And they're, like I said, they're not interested in what we say or for example, over the past 30 years when you saw all the tabernacles disappearing.
Yeah.
People
were protesting that all over the place.
Yeah. There were meetings, there were arguments, people were fighting it. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. They just did it. And people are going to fight.
Today, if that's the kind of dialogue, you would think that the Pope, in talking about the synodality and all the people of God, would be saying to priests, when your people want their tabernacles, you got to give them to them. No, he would never say something like that.
No. But if there's one or two gay people, because he loves talking about the person that nobody else listens to. So there's two gay guys there that they don't believe anything that we believe. They're forcing themselves on us. We don't necessarily want them there. I mean, we'd love to have them saved, but they're not saved because they don't believe what we believe. But yet they won't leave. They still call themselves Catholic. Those are the people that are going to be listened to. And he's going to say, see, we saved these two gay guys. They couldn't have been part of the church without all this. It's like, well, okay, what about all the 2,000 other people that you said, screw off? It just blows your mind. The kind of stuff that these people get away with. And there's nothing we can do about it. We're literally just kind of waiting for some kind of miracle here.
It's like, what else could eventually happen? I mean, how bad could it get? How feeble-minded can the church become before God says, "Okay, that's enough. I'm gonna send my Holy Spirit for real now"?
There's people, we're not a small crowd. There's plenty of people who love the church despite all the flaws, and who want to see her strong and not strong as in having power, but strong as in withstanding the corruption that seems to be going everywhere else.
Right.
And we're all saddened by this idiot Pope and all these bishops who keep betraying us over and over and over again. And they never lose their power. And we do just all you can do is keep praying. Well, even then, you could start fasting and you could pray more. That's
true. I mean, there's more than one way to pray. That you got to join it with fasting and.
If I think it has caused a lot of people to start fasting when they might not have before. The fact that we're in so much trouble and everybody sees it. It's so plain now, it doesn't even try to hide. So people who might not have ever thought about this stuff are starting to realize, hey, this is going to be a major spiritual battle, and there's only one way to win it.
Oh, man.
The synodal journey unfolds within a historical context marked by epochal changes in society and by a crucial transition in the life of the church, which cannot be ignored. The changes in society are it's been like this forever. It's not a major change. There's no change.
It's not really. I mean, that's the thing. It's like
the change is actually it's just that the church has never been this bad.
In fact, that's the thing. The change is in the church, not in society. Society's always been bad. Society's always had its or at least had attractions, its temptations. It's always calling people away from God. That's the constant in the world, and that continues today.
That's what we're here to fight. That's what the church is supposed to be fighting, is saying, hey, don't do it this way, do it God's way. I don't know how much more we could say about it without just kind of
saying the same things. I mean, we can go through and find a bunch of stuff in this.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of little writing projects, but
it's
the
just
whole
so
church
consistently bad.
The whole church is called to deal with the weight of a culture imbued with clericalism that she inherits from her history, and with those forms of exercising authority on which the different types of abuse are grafted. Okay, so are you changing that? And, I don't know. There's so many things wrong with every sentence in this whole document.
You can take every sentence and say 10 sentences about what's wrong with it.
Yeah. Especially when you know their end goal.
I think that's a technique of the nonsense purveyors. They just put so much out there that you can't possibly address it all, and you just throw up your hands.
Yeah, and you feel like I don't have anywhere to start. I could start at the last sentence or the first sentence.
Yeah.
But even the sentence itself, where do I start?
It reminds me of, I was in college and I was a freshman, and I went to Catholic schools, which were good schools then, St. Martin's and then LaSalle. I knew how to write. Yeah. And one of the guys who he wasn't in my class, but he was a freshman with me. We were on separate. He was a mechanical. No, he was actually a civil engineer. But he asked me to look over and proofread one of his papers, and it's like this thing was the organization was bad. The sentences were ungrammatical. The words were misspelled. And like several other levels of wrong with the whole paper. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I start? How can I possibly do this without saying, okay, I'm going to scrap it all and rewrite it for you? Yeah. I never agreed to look at anybody else's paper since then throughout my entire college.
Yeah. Again,
this reminds me of that.
Malcolm in the Middle, when Malcolm was asked to help this football player get through his classes or something, and he had to write an essay to help him get into a college, and Malcolm just ended up writing it for him. But somehow the football player believed that he was smart enough to write it, so Malcolm made him believe him in himself, but he was just so bad that it was a waste.
Yeah. Okay. This Pope needs Malcolm to do his writing for him or something.
I guess we can't say much more about it. It is what it is.
I think we're done with the topic.
Yeah.
Move on to news.
All right. So let me find current events. Actually, I'm going to get a coffee before I... Okay. All right. I thought I was reading last week's news. Okay. I got it now. 3 people are killed and 7 injured in a 4.8 earthquake that hits in Indonesia. Now, a couple days later, I don't know if this has anything to do with the earthquake. 11 people drowned during a school outing who had gone down to the river to clean, to pick up trash in Indonesia. And 11 people, I don't know how many of these are kids or if maybe it was a college or what, but I guess there was a flash flood or something. But they went down to the river in West Java and to clean and pick up trash, and they drowned.
Wow. I mean,
that's terrible.
It's terrible, but it's also, I mean, it makes you wonder, how did that happen? What?
Yeah, how can you not, unless maybe they went into the water for some reason.
Was it like maybe they thought they were going to got into the water and like the current was way stronger than they thought or something? Or was it a steep bank that kept going and they slipped and couldn't recover?
You know, sometimes the river creates those like almost canyon type of deals, and it looks solid, and you walk up and it ends up being sand. I mean, we've seen that, you know.
Right.
If it's a big river, you know, you could end up
away, and then suddenly
a bunch of people are gone. Let me see. These are all reported on Al Jazeera, and ages 13 to 15. These are kids.
Okay.
21 of them slipped into the water. I guess this is probably what I just described. The weather was good and there was no flash flood. So those children who drowned were holding each other's hands. One of them slipped and the others followed. Oh, wow. That's terrible.
Oh, man. I'd hope it would go the other way. They would save them.
Wow. I guess that's what was happening, maybe. I guess there was kind of a cliff there, and it just... and this is not during the rainy season, and it was not flooded, so...
Just a horrible accident.
Yeah. Wow. An unidentified armed gang kidnaps 15 American missionaries and their families in Haiti. Now, authorities in Haiti say that members of the 400 Mawozo gang are behind the kidnapping. Actually, 15 Americans and 1 Canadian. Those kidnapped include 7 women, 5 men, and 5 children. I guess this gang, I think they're doing this for money. You know, they kidnap them and then try to get a ransom. French president condemns the Paris Massacre of 1961 on the eve of its 60th anniversary, but doesn't issue a formal apology. Now, the Paris Massacre was during the Algerian War. There were 30,000 pro-National Liberation Front Algerians protesting, and the French government came down. The police came in, and so it says that there were 40 deaths that were admitted to, but most people say there were anywhere from 100 to 300 deaths, actually. Some of it was by the beating of the police beating them, but a lot of it was police officers throwing demonstrators into the river Seine. River Seine. I wonder how you say that. Seine?
I just always call it the Seine.
That's going to come up later in the Saint story. I guess that river must be huge.
It's
violent.
Like the main river through France.
But I mean, like if somebody threw a bunch of demonstrators into the Ohio River, they would just swim out. Yeah. I guess this is a different kind of river. I don't know. Anyway, I saw that and it reminded me of something that's in the Saint story, so that's why I'm pointing it out. So in China, they launched I guess this is Shenzhou 13. It's a rocket that they're taking a crew to stay in the Chinese space station for the next 6 months. So this will be China's longest crewed mission to date.
Okay.
This is weird. Collaborators with the KTH Royal Institute of Technology publish an experiment showing evidence of a new state of matter called electron quadruplets. So this is kind of like Cooper pairs, I guess,
which is responsible for superconductivity.
Right. Only with I think if I understand this right, and I don't, but as far as I'm able to, this is kind of like, I can't remember the word now. When entanglement between two electrons that can't, but the entanglement between two electrons doesn't seem to exist over great distances. But when there's a quadruplet of electrons, it seems to be able to exist over greater distances. This is my understanding of what they're saying.
Huh.
And they also talk about breaking of time reversal symmetry. I wish I had time to look at all that and know what most of this stuff means, but it's interesting. It sounds like an interesting basis for a story.
Yeah.
Speaking
you
of
can
which,
develop a sci-fi story out of that.
I think there is a sci-fi story entitled Entanglement that you can find on Amazon by the world-renowned author Eric Engel. I'm pretty sure you can buy that. Japanese Prime Minister says that the mass release of wastewater at that nuclear plant cannot be delayed. Okay, remember in Japan there was several years ago there was a earthquake that caused a near nuclear meltdown? I guess it was a meltdown. That was in 2011.
Okay.
They've got a lot of water in storage from that. And they're saying, look, we can't just hold it forever. We're going to have to start releasing it. And I guess some people are fighting that, but he's going to do it anyway. The local fishermen from both China and South Korea are upset about it. I mean, they got to release it eventually, but it's not like, is that area so bad that people can't go there? I mean, Japan's not a huge place, so I can't imagine it being that dangerous.
Maybe it's one of those that, you know, how people attach significance to certain things and then you kind of lose proportion and perspective.
I mean, even in Chernobyl, things are growing again. Of course, this was in 2011. Chernobyl was a long time ago. But unlike Chernobyl, the Japanese government asked for and accepted help immediately, and we got the situation under control pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. He's saying he's going to go ahead and start releasing it into the ocean, the Pacific, because he's had it for several decades. No, I'm sorry. He hasn't had it for several. He's had it for 1 decade, but he's going to release it over the next several decades. So you can't just keep water forever. That's not.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
I know, that should be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Man is wanted in Pakistan after killing his 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren, and then setting their house afire. Because one of his daughters married against his wishes.
Oh, man.
Her husband also was in the fire. And these people are nuts. I don't know why the liberals have made friends with the Muslims, but they're nuts. You don't hear Catholic men doing that kind of thing. Well, you know what? Maybe you do. Not good Catholic men. This guy would be considered a good Muslim.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's the thing. This is Islam. This is
if
what
a Catholic guy
is.
did that, they'd be like, "Oh, what a terrible guy."
Yeah,
he would be considered by most Catholics to be a terrible person,
and by by every document and development of the Catholic faith as well.
Mm-hmm. He wouldn't find justification for this.
Yeah,
somewhere in some 500-year-old document in the Catholic Church. No, you couldn't find that. Speaking of Muslims, there was a mob of Muslims who ended up killing 2 Hindu men at a temple in Bangladesh. Apparently there was Quran desecration at a Hindu temple. And so there was like this mob of 300 Muslims who eventually the police were able to subdue, but I think 4 members of the mob were also killed. But now there are, a mob of 500 Muslims, not 300.
Oh, wow.
There are now 300 suspected members of this mob that have been arrested so far. So the Bangladesh police are coming down on it. They're not going to tolerate these Muslim riots.
Yeah.
Maybe the Christians should start acting more like the Hindus. Defend ourselves against these people. Citing Roe versus Wade. Okay, this is tricky. Citing Roe versus Wade, the United States Department of Justice, the DOJ, requests the Supreme Court to vacate the mandate of the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit on allowing the Texas Heartbeat Act to remain in effect, thereby blocking the law. So first of all, why is the DOJ
involved
part of this at all? This is court.
They need to step out. The DOJ is executive. They need to step back, let the legislative and judicial work this out, and then when the final answer's there, step in and act accordingly. That's what their job is. Their job isn't to inveigh on behalf of a certain idea of how things should go. Their job is not to enforce court decisions. Their job is to enforce the law, legislative action.
The court is going to interpret the law, and then the DOJ enforces it. This is a complete. I mean, this is the ongoing ideologization of the Department of Justice. That we saw. It certainly started corrupt under Clinton. Continued vastly under Obama. I mean, I think Obama took massive strides in that direction. Yeah. And now we're seeing it applied full force again. Yeah. So again, we keep praying for this. America can still turn around if we can stop abortion. I think America could be great again.
Yeah.
The Olympic torch relay begins in Greece without public attendance.
That's stupid.
So dumb. I don't even like Olympics, but I think
that's really stupid.
January 6th Select Committee investigating the riot on the U.S. Capitol votes to hold former Chief Strategist Steve Bannon in criminal contempt for refusing to comply with a subpoena issued by the Select Committee. I don't know if this Select Committee has any power that they're allowed to just subpoena people.
Is it a congressional committee?
I don't know. I can't tell if this is a congressional committee or just like it's probably like more of the DOJ.
If it's a justice, because I don't know that. Yeah, that is weird. I mean, I know Congress has a power of subpoena.
Yeah. Mount Aso in Japan erupts, sending 3,500 meters, sending smoke 3,500 meters into the sky. It began around noon local time. I wonder how that looks from the satellite.
Good idea. Let's see if we can. I bet there'll be some pictures coming up.
Yeah, I guess right now it's just smoke. I guess because there are no reports of injuries yet. But there were climbers on the mountain, or there were reports of climbers on the mountain right before the eruption. They don't know about that yet, so I don't know. I think volcanoes kind of fascinate me, but I would never get so curious that I would go to see one. Even in the ones in Hawaii, I'll skip Hawaii because I know there's a volcano somewhere around there. And the whole Earth can just belch up molten rock.
How about Yellowstone?
Yeah, that's a volcano too. Yeah, but it's there's no hope of that.
practically the entire park, is in a massive volcano caldera.
Yeah. There's no reason to
Earth's
think that it would
crust
blow.
is like thinner there in the Yellowstone area than I think it is anywhere else on the Earth.
Is it?
Yeah. But it's got some really cool stuff.
I probably would go to Yellowstone, but I wouldn't go to Hawaii because there's actually lava there, and you can go and see like lava, like rock that has been melted. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
And we're afraid that our factories are going to destroy this planet that belches forth melted rock
Yeah.
and smoke 3,500 meters into the sky. Like, we got that much power. That's all the news I got.
All right. Well, I got a few stories here. First, I want to just, give a shout out to whoever, I don't know, God, Providence, whatever, for the chair that I'm podcasting from.
I
don't know if you've ever heard my old chair that if I lean the wrong way, it makes a loud popping sound. I don't know if it makes it onto the recordings or not.
I don't know about do you hear this? Because I know that I cut that out a lot in the podcast, but I do hear some kind of clunking. I thought it was you putting your cup down.
Oh, no.
I wonder if that's your chair that I've been...
It's my chair.
Okay, so I do hear your chair.
So last week, I was on my way to work, and it was after the rush hour. I had to go into work to do something short, so it was later in the morning after rush hour.
Yeah.
And here in Avon, where I live, in the road were a couple of these office chairs that, at a glance from driving, they looked pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I had to go all the way into the oncoming lane in order to go around them. So I thought, well, that's a accident waiting to happen. So I moved them off the side of the road and put them on the side. I thought somebody will be back for them, and I went on. And then I came home from work, and it was, again, I was only there to do something short, so this was a little bit before the normal afternoon rush hour. But still, a few hours. They were still there on the side of the road when I came back past. So I thought, it's been long enough for anybody to come back and get those. Nobody's coming. I'm going to pick them up. I threw them in the back of my truck.
Now.
Brought them home.
Two of them?
Two of them. And both of them had these stickers on them that indicated that they were destined for recycling or something like that. I don't know. I pulled the stickers off. They're both in pretty decent shape. Little bit of scratches and nicks here. But the one I'm sitting in now, I went ahead and just... Each of them is missing one wheel. So I just pulled the wheels off of my old office chair and stuck them on this one. And now I'm sitting in a really nice lazy boy office chair with the arms that fold up so I can scoot up to my desk if I need. It's got this cool lumbar support where that kind of forces you to have good posture. But if I lean back in the chair, the lumbar support kind of disappears into the chair to let you relax. It is a really neat chair.
I need a new chair, but I don't often see them on the side of the road. I just have to wait until
I know.
I see,
you gotta... If you see one on the side of the road...
Plus, I wouldn't be in the truck, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but you've got ropes and stuff you can tie to the top of your company car or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a company car, so I can't just take crap and... You know me, if it were my car, I'd just take it and pile it on there and let it... Whatever dents and scratches, I wouldn't care, but I can't do that. It's not mine.
Oh. Yeah. Well,
okay, what do we got?
If anybody out there is looking to hire a wizard, maybe get in touch with this guy. The city of Christchurch, New Zealand, has basically fired their wizard.
Wizard? Like magic guy?
Yep.
Okay.
For, the hat and everything. I think what it was is that it was a position hired by the city to be part of the city's sort of touristy attraction and stuff. And so as part
Yeah.
of their whole shtick, it's like, well, we have a wizard on staff for the city and stuff like that. But they decided that people aren't as interested in magic or whatever. And
What city was this?
Christchurch, New Zealand.
New Zealand. Oh, because that's where they filmed a lot of the movie.
Harry Potter stuff and whatnot.
No, the Lord of the Rings, I think.
Oh, did they film that there too?
Hold on, let me find
That
out.
could be. That makes sense.
New Zealand, yeah, that's where you can go see the Frodo and the little holes that they live in. I can't remember the names.
Oh,
of
the
these things.
hobbits, where the hobbits
But,
live.
Yeah. Most of this stuff, a lot of this stuff was filmed in New Zealand. A lot of the landscapes.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So a lot of people would go, and you got to admit, I mean, you've seen the Lord of the Rings, and you've seen the landscaping there, and you have to admit, it would be really beautiful landscape. If you wanted to visit a place that had nice landscape, that would be an ideal place.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't go looking for a wizard, but probably a lot of people do because of the movie.
Right. So,
But
well, anyway,
it was a long time
this guy's
ago.
out of work,
you know?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
If he's a real wizard, maybe he'll put a hex on the city or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it was 20 years ago. It's over.
Yeah,
that craze
that's
is
true.
gone.
Yep. All right. Next, we have... Okay, this is just dumb. A guy convinced... I don't know how these artists have this ability to convince people of things like this, but this artist got 300 people to pose nude. They're not like truly nude. They're like... They strip down naked and then they've got this white paint all over them or something.
Okay.
For a photograph near the Dead Sea. I guess they're supposed to resemble like salt, like from the sea or something. And he said it's to try to call call attention to the importance of, I don't know, saving the Dead Sea. I don't
It's
know why
dead
we need to save
already.
the Dead Sea. It's exactly. It's. I guess
Is there
it's
anything
shrinking.
alive that there's not like the Dead Sea's pretty much
No,
dead,
nothing
isn't
lives
it?
there.
That's what, yeah.
It's shrinking because of a couple of the rivers that feed it are like being dammed up, used for irrigation and maybe power, stuff like that. So the Dead Sea is shrinking, and there's people who think that it's important not to let it shrink too much. I don't know why. I don't get it. So what if the Dead Sea shrinks? I mean,
Is the Dead Sea? Is it really big? You know, I've never.
It's not huge, but it's like
I've
the
never
lowest.
seen the. You know
it's
what?
like
It is big.
Earth's
That's big.
Well, I mean, it's a sea.
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger than like the Great Lakes, but it's not big like the Mediterranean Sea.
Right. Okay. I thought it was a lot smaller.
Oh, okay.
Then I'm seeing these pictures and it's like, oh, okay, it's a regular sea. It's got nice blue water too, but there's nothing alive in there, I guess.
Yeah, because
is that why?
it's so salinated.
Because of the salt. Well,
Anyway,
I guess 300 naked people would make me want to keep the Dead Sea alive.
Look at all those naked people. We better save the
Yeah.
Dead Sea. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I don't understand nudists. I hate being naked. I don't even like being naked in the shower.
Go put your swim trunks on to get a shower.
Yeah. I would want to. But he got 300 of them to just stand around naked. And it's not like...
Of their backside.
Yeah. It's not like, okay, pose real quick. All right, get your clothes on. They're like standing around. All right, stand over here. All right, everybody go over there.
Well,
because I'm looking at they've got things that say like 1 day ago, 3 days ago. So this is a matter of days, people walking around naked. Isn't it hot there?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I don't know if it's, how seasonal it is either.
Yeah. Well, they're like in mountain areas and rocky and standing around on rocks. That would hurt your feet too.
Yeah, that's right.
People do dumb things.
I don't know what it is. Artists talk people into stupid stuff.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, you're going to be a part of this great art project, and everybody's going to, see your picture among the 300 other people and be like, hey, that's you.
Hey. Somebody can recognize you from your backside.
Yeah, people are idiotic.
All right. Well, this guy's not idiotic. He's just a fisherman. And he managed to snag a 13-foot hammerhead shark from the surf.
Wow.
Just surf fishing.
He hooked it? Did he bring it all the way in?
Yeah, they've got a picture of it right there on the beach with it.
What do you do if you catch a big shark like that? I mean,
is it food or? No, he said it usually takes. He said they're pretty heavy. It takes 2 to 3 people, but what you do is wade out to your neck, revive it, and let it go. You kind of get it back out to sea.
How would you get it back out?
You get some people to help you. I mean,
it's going to go.
It's practically dead. It's not like it's going to start biting you or anything. So as it gradually wakes up, you get away, and you run back to shore, and it swims out to sea. I suppose.
I know.
I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Well, I don't care for Shark Week. I think it's dumb, but Vicky is really into Shark Week. So,
oh really? Is there a Shark Week? I didn't know that.
Well, when we had TV during Shark Week, that's kind of all we watched is shark shows.
Oh, like Jaws and that kind of stuff?
No, the documentary type stuff.
Like National Geographic and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was one where this guy had pulled a shark in, and I think he was standing next to it, and I don't know, it was on land. It was not in the water. It was on land, and it just reached around and grabbed him and almost took a limb off.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
I mean, he almost bled to death on the way to the hospital just from a landed shark biting him. I think it was his hand. I think maybe he was trying to get the hook or something, and it just wrapped its head around real quick and grabbed him. I wouldn't try to save any shark. I mean, I just can't. Why? Yeah. There's no shortage of sharks.
That's true. Why not
keep
eat
people
it?
keep getting.
Shark is something you can eat, right?
I don't know.
I
go to Jungle Gyms and I see shark on ice that you can buy. So I assume people eat it.
You can just butcher it if you catch it in the sea or not. I don't know. Maybe there are some laws.
People eat anything though.
Hammerheads are protected or something. I don't know.
I don't think so. Like you can eat. Like if you go, okay, so you see sharks at Jungle Gyms. Jungle Gyms is a local restaurant or grocery store in Cincinnati that has all kinds of exotic foods. They have fruits that you wouldn't see in any other grocery store, and meats. Like you can go and buy squid and octopus, which you generally wouldn't be able to buy in Cincinnati. So anyway, they do have shark. They also have catfish, though. Not just any catfish, though. Like channel cat. You can actually buy live channel cat at Jungle Gyms.
Huh.
Look, I've grown up catching and eating fish in this area. And channel cat are the nastiest catfish you can possibly taste.
So why would they sell that?
I don't know. I guess some people like it. Like, I mean, there are some catfish that aren't too bad, like shovelhead aren't too bad. Some of the blue cat tastes, depending on where you get the meat. But channel cat, there's no good meat on that thing. So, maybe that's the same way sharks. Maybe sharks really taste nasty, but there's this weird group of people who eat them or something.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Never had shark, but I've seen it on a menu at, like, nicer restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the state of Maine has decided to clean up its roads. They passed a law that is... it's not going to happen overnight, but it's basically banning profanities on their license plates.
I don't know what I think about that.
I know. I always assumed that you couldn't get profanities on your license plate at all, but they are saying that it's getting underway now rulemaking is getting underway to ensure that the law protects First Amendment rights while getting rid of obscene language. So they're trying to figure out that right balance. Because like right now there are plates like people have FU on their plates, except it spells out the whole word.
Yeah, see, on the one hand, I'm all for the state not telling you what you can say no matter what. That's kind of an American way of doing things.
Right.
At the same time...
It's a license plate issued by the state, though.
Yeah, this is from the state, and if the state's going to reflect if it's going to reflect the way the people are, then I would imagine a lot of people don't want to read that.
That's true.
I don't want to read it.
You know what? Get a standard license plate, and if you want to put an obscene message on the back of your car, just stick it in your window.
I wonder if Mom's license plate would be banned.
What's it say?
Her license plate. Remember that tan Buick she had?
Yeah.
That
but I don't
license
plate
was CEX 338. Kathy would always comment on that. Your license plate says sex.
I don't remember that. I think I was never there for one of those comments.
She would always comment on it. And Mom would always be like, "Will you shut up?"
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, we'll see. Maybe Maine will get their roads cleaned up. Maybe not.
I guess Ass Man wouldn't get a license plate. Did you ever see that Seinfeld?
No. I not watched Seinfeld.
Kramer asked for he had personalized license plate. I think it was supposed to say Cosmo, and he gets it, and it says Assman, ASSMAN.
Yeah.
And all these big beautiful women keep hitting on him after that, and
thinking, okay, yeah.
He's getting all kinds of women going after him, and then everybody's commenting, everybody's giving him thumbs up, and they're trying to figure out who in the world would get personalized license plates that say that.
Right.
It ends up he finds out it was a proctologist.
Oh.
It was a pretty funny episode.
All right.
Okay.
Last one I have. We're back to New Zealand for this one.
Oh, okay.
In Wellington, New Zealand, an emergency call was made by a 4-year-old. He basically wanted to show his toys to somebody.
He wanted to what?
Show his toys to somebody.
Show them?
Yeah.
So why do...
The dispatcher answers the call. The call, the boy makes the call, basically the New Zealand version of 911.
Yeah.
And the dispatcher says, "This is police. Where is the emergency?" The boy pauses, and then he says, "Hi, police lady?" The dispatcher says, "Yes." "What's going on?" He says, "Can I tell you something?" And after she says yes, he says, "I've got some toys for you." "You've got toys for me?" asks the dispatcher. "Yep, come over and see them," the boy says.
They sent a cop over there.
So a police says, "Yeah, I'll go do it." And so he went over and saw him and had a little talking with the boy, saying, explaining the proper reasons to use whatever their 911 is, their emergency number. Mm. But he said the kid did have cool toys.
Have your kids ever called 911?
Have my kids?
Yeah. When they're young and learning to use the phone.
No, accidentally, no.
Maybe even random. I don't know. My kids called them once.
Yeah.
And I had a device on my phone that would automatically record messages. So it was hooked up to my computer. Not messages, conversations.
Yeah.
It was hooked up to my computer. I had MP3s for every single phone call made. I did that because I would have a lot of impromptu conversations with customers, and I'm terrible at taking notes.
It was your way of note-taking.
I would,
right.
Yeah, and this is when I was doing a lot of copywriting. But, so also I get a phone call and this 911 person saying, "I believe your kids are playing with the phone." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and whatever. But, so I looked up the MP3 and I found a couple, phone conversations that my kids were playing with the phones a lot. I just didn't know.
Oh, okay.
And I found one that was kind of freaky. Because One of the kids picks up the phone and talks for a little while and then puts the phone down, but doesn't hang it up. So, you got the dial tone, and then eventually the dial tone stops. Well, then I can hear them playing and stuff. And then I hear one go back and pick up the phone again and say hello. And there's no response, so she gives the phone to Buddy, I think, and says, here. And Buddy says hello. And then a faint man's voice says hello.
Oh, that's weird.
And then I don't remember exactly what was said, but there was some back and forth between Buddy and just a very faint man's voice. Which, I mean, the phone had been off the hook. There's no connection there. The only other voice could have been in the house.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, did you track down what was going on and where people were during the time of that call? Guys, maybe it was you. You can't tell because it's so faint.
No, I would remember if I'm talking to my son on the phone and they were playing on
not
the
on
phone.
the phone. You're just talking to him and he's answering you. And the phone's picking up your voice faintly and his voice well.
No, I'm downstairs doing something on the computer or something like that, or cleaning, and the kids are upstairs in my bedroom playing with my phone.
Oh, this was
This
all
is back when,
like within a
this is
certain
landlines
time,
and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. This is all that same day.
I see.
That's
creepy.
I've got the recording, but I lost it at some point when I changed computers. Man, I just looked at it with this computer and realized how old it is. Oh. But I know I've got it somewhere because I set it aside and I set it in one of those don't ever lose these files. And Buddy's having a conversation with someone, as far as I know, wasn't in the house. Or if he was, it's kind of freaky because it was a landline, so there were only two phones.
That is
downstairs and upstairs. Okay. That's your last one?
That is my last one.
All right. We got stories about saints. And let me find... So we're going to talk about Saint Adjutor of Vernon.
France, yeah.
Died 1131 in Vernon, France. He was a knight with a group of other knights, about 200 Normandy knights, who went on the First Crusade in 1095. There's not a whole lot about him other than there were miracles during his battles. At one point, he and these 200 other knights were kind of trapped in an ambush by 1,500 enemies. These were Muslims, of course. And I don't know how the Crusades progressed over the years, but this was trying to get the Holy Land back from the Muslims and to try to drive them out of Europe. So, he's in a spot where he's trapped with his 200 other soldiers and by 1,500 enemies, and he finally prostrates himself and prays to, now the legend has it, Saint Madeleine.
Huh.
I can't find a Saint Madeleine that would have been a saint during that time.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I don't know about this. Anyway, he prays to her and vows to donate his land so that they can build a chapel there. And when he comes through all this, and immediately thunder strikes and starts. Actually, some of the enemy was hit with lightning, and the enemy kind of scattered. And the 200 knights were able to fight back and eventually wipe them out. He spent 17 years fighting in the Crusades, which eventually brought him actually to the tomb of Christ. But he was captured there, and he was bound with these real heavy chains, but his captors were kind of annoyed at how calm he was and how he didn't seem to worry at all. So they doubled his chains and made him heavier and put him in an even smaller cell to make him more uncomfortable. While in prison, he had a vision of Saint Madeleine and Saint Bernard, and they took him out of the prison cell all the way home, where he ended up donating the land as he had promised and did build a chapel, and eventually he joined this monastery.
Wow.
He was, he was only a priest there, or a monk, and he never did become a bishop or anything, but there were reports of miracles by him. For example, outside of Vernon, there was a whirlpool in the Seine River. Seine River.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was talking about.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So it's violent enough to where there's a whirlpool where it's endangering the boats around there. He asked his bishop to go out there on the water with him, who was scared and didn't want to go, but he finally got his bishop to go out there. He told the bishop to put holy water in the water to dump it overboard, and then he took the chains that he had been captured in and threw them into the whirlpool, and the whirlpool stopped.
Wow.
Vernon was also, I guess, under siege at one time, again by Muslims. And finally it was set aflame, and St. Adjutor rode around town telling the flames to go back where they came from. Eventually, the flames switched direction and kind of engulfed their enemy and put a stop to the siege. People make, they have his remains today, and people make a lot of pilgrimages there. He's the patron of swimmers, boaters, and drowning victims.
All of which you can understand from the whirlpool incident.
Yeah. So he died in 1131. I just thought it was a weird story about the whirlpool.
Yeah.
And that's really what grabbed my eye about him. But Saint Adjutor of Vernon, who was a warrior, and he fought the Muslims because that's what Christians used to do.
Yep. Well, Saint Adjutor, pray for us.
Yeah. Not a big fantastic story this week, but I've had a busy week.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't do a whole lot of research, but
so just for people's perspective, Vernon is I don't know. I want to say maybe 50 miles north west of Paris.
Okay. How close are they to the ocean?
Center to center. How close are they to what?
To the ocean.
Oh, well, go another 70 miles northwest and you get the English Channel.
How come I can't find it on a map?
Vernon,
France.
I just typed Vernon, France into Google Maps. It took me right there.
Paris, France. Okay. So, I mean, you're pretty... Okay, you're not that far from the ocean. I imagine the water's pretty violent by then. It's just the two stories that I heard today, one of a whirlpool, one of
both were on the Seine.
The police throwing people in and killing 300 people that way. Just kind of, it's not anything I'm used to. I don't know. I've never really seen a river that violent.
Well, you can measure. It's not huge going through Vernon. 680 feet across at the one point that I measured.
Okay.
Of course, the ships weren't huge either back then. You got to remember what a ship was and what would have been sailing on the river. A whirlpool in the river could have been quite dangerous to what they had then.
Okay. And, of course, it may have been a lot bigger at the time or smaller. I imagine parts of this river are more controlled nowadays with, like, dams and stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Maybe.
So,
if not, these people are idiots. Maybe they haven't caught up to America's way of taming things yet. I don't know. But, it's just, every river I know of, the Ohio's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you were close to the middle, being thrown into it, you could
still
swim back.
Usually make it to shore.
Especially if you're not fighting current, you just keep going with the current. Eventually, you'll get to the side. Of course, if you can't swim,
I'm going to say that the Ohio River is probably not all that different from the Seine in terms of distance across. So I'm just looking at Cincinnati. No, the Ohio is even bigger. So I'm coming up with like 1,300.
That's what I thought. The Ohio is a
feet across.
Big river.
So,
but okay, I'll tell you what. When I went to see, because I don't go very many places, but I did get a chance to go see the Niagara Falls on the New York side.
Okay.
And actually, I saw the small falls. I didn't realize you could go see the bigger ones, but it was a deal where I didn't have any money to pay for the like $10 parking.
Oh, right.
So if you only park for 10 minutes, you could park for free. So I just parked my car, ran to the falls, looked at them, and came back. Right. But on the road there, I could see the river and how fast it was. And I gotta say, just the river's kind of impressive. I mean, water moving that quickly over land is scary.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most violent river I've ever seen. And I imagine some of them get more violent than that. And it's not really that big of a river right there.
Yeah, that's a good point, because
anyway.
the Seine might be, it's narrower across, but it might be much less lazy than the Ohio is.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all we got. We're wrapping up pretty early tonight.
I know, but I got to mention this because while I was going through looking at news, I almost included an item that I saw that a sword from, I'm going to see if I can go find it real quick. A sword from a crusader was found like outside of Israel or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
In one of the cities.
That's cool.
And I'll have to go and find it and find out, because I don't know which crusade it was from or anything like that. It's just, I kind of looked at it and I thought, okay, no, I won't bring it up. And then you bring up this crusader as our saint of the day.
It's neat. Old things like that. I'm kind of getting seeped more into that as I come across old typewriters and learn the history of all these typewriters. And that's just typewriters. But man, a sword from the Crusades, that would be cool. That would be a really cool thing to own. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, think about what we said. And as always,
circle the beads.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.